we head over to Mesopotamia. And here we see a depiction of King Esarhaddon, who lived about 600, 700 BC. And he's heading into what is an incense tent. There's a thing there with some curtains over it, and they would burn incense inside this tent and put their head inside of it, inhale the fumes, and then come back out, you know, and enjoy the experience. But all of this, of course, was done with religious connotations, right? Now, we know that Esarhaddon was using cannabis in this way because there's a letter from the time of his life written by his an exchange of letters between his mother and the priest of the temple. And the question was, what are the sacred rites? And in fact, they say that they use kanaba, which is the Assyrian word for cannabis, honey, myrrh, cinnamon, and other odorous plants. So we know that it was an integral part of the whole Assyrian Babylonian complex and worship. Cannabis incense was used because its aroma was pleasing to the gods in Assyria and Babylonia. Here we see a symbol, and this is from the time of Ashurbanipal too as well. He's the son of Esarhaddon, and again we have references to, direct references to cannabis in Ashurbanipal's cuneiform library. He has a recipe for a cannabis incense made with hashish. Now this symbol is really interesting because it's generally been described as the tree of life, and all of the whole Genesis myth comes from the Assyria-Babylonia complex, from earlier Assyrian myths of Dilmun, which is Eden, and the Kiskanu tree, which is the primordial tree of life. And it's interesting because in the Assyrian name, Kiskanu, we have the root for cannabis, canna, incorporated in it. And there's been no known written depictions of what this tree symbol that they have here is known to represent. As well, we see they're holding pine cone-like buds. There's a winged shaman holding pine cone-like buds over King Esarhaddon, like there's trying to associate him with the plant somehow. We see that around the plant there's seven-pronged leaves, much like the seven-pronged cannabis leaf. Now this has been highly stylized because such sacred knowledge in the ancient world, the identification of magic plant and stuff like that was sacred knowledge, and it wasn't to be shared with just anybody. It had to be somewhat hidden from the uninitiated and reserved for the priests and whatnot. So they didn't write down what these were, but also we know that they did write about cannabis, and cannabis was used in the sacred rites, which by all accounts is what these depictions demonstrate. And by all accounts, cannabis was a very, very important plant to the Assyrians in Babylon. They used it for fiber, they used it for food oil, they used it for cannabis incense, cannabis ointments, even cannabis delectables. So I think we can begin to connect the plant and the tree, the pine cone there. I disagree with our earlier speaker there through the week, James Arthur, doesn't represent a mushroom pine cone, but actually represents a pine cone-like bud of cannabis coming from the seven-pronged sacred tree, the tree of life, that we know the Assyrians' sacred rite was based about, and which we know the Assyrians used cannabis in. So pretty fantastic scenario. Here again we can see the winged shamans with eagle masks, much like Native American groups and stuff. In the ancient world they would wear animal masks, and the wings represented the ability to travel between worlds and, well, in the psychoactive state. And even the baskets that the winged shamans used for collecting the pine cone-like buds from the sacred tree were made from the sacred plant itself.